Hello everyone and welcome back to Murph's Models. Today we're going to continue with making this sleigh and all the rest that's involved. We did the coffin last week. This week we are going to do Jack Skellington. There he is in all his glory. So I've scaled him down to the size I think is about right, and that's 12 centimeters. And I cut out the same picture and popped it on the sleigh just to check if the scale was right. And I think that's probably about correct. I've found two beads that I'm trying to do the head size between. That's a bit big, that's a little bit small. So between that will be the head size, and I'm going to use a new material for that. I'm going to use my second favorite. After Daz comes Sculpting. Yes. The oven baked clay that is actually a little finer than Daz. So because the head is so small of Jack Skellington, I figured that Sculpting might be a better choice. I've also printed out a bigger version of Jack just so that I've got some more detail to work with the eyes, the nose and the mouth, let alone the hands, which are going to be the really tricky bit. Let's see if I can find a way of making that work. So because we're into more puppet making, we're going to need some different types of material. For instance, scary things like felt and fleece and maybe even some fun fur. Because of that, we'll need some cotton, we'll need some needles. We need other products as well. For instance, copied eggs and even some liquid latex. Woo! Scary. So, I hope you're ready, because now we begin our journey into puppet making with Jack Skellington. Okay, so now it's time to get started on Jack's head. So I've manipulated some wire. I have the hook at the top to keep the head solid. For the ease of sculpting, it's good to have this on a base. All I need is a little bit of glue. Pop that in there and then pop that inside like that. And I'm just going to tape it up until it's dry, so that it stays solidly in place for me while I'm sculpting. The other side. So we just need to get out some Sculpey, and the Sculpey will actually go nice and soft in your fingers. All you have to do is that. Just knead it in your fingers. A bit of that. And that's probably about right. I think that's pretty good. I am going to now cut a little slot at the back, like that, to pop the head over onto the stick, like that. Now we need a mark here for the front, so we know which way is facing forward, and we need a nice big reference of what the head looks like. Maybe the nose is big at the front. Got one of these lovely tools here that's perfect for making the eyes. Let's see if we can get that eye looking good. The nose, maybe I will use a pin because it's so small. Now the tricky bit is to get this mouth right. And some water. I think that's probably pretty good. So while the head is baking in the oven, I am going to tackle the body shape for Jack Skellington. You can see that his shoulders are nice and high, and then he has a thin body. If you look closer at this frame from the film, you can see that his hips sit in here, his legs come out, and then his body sits forward with the arms coming out along here. I've done a little maquette of what I think that should be. And there it goes like that. I've started kneading up some more of this lovely Sculpey to try and create that shape. So I shall continue to do that now. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that body shape. So I'm just checking with the arm armature and also with the leg armature, and that all looks pretty good to me. So now it's off to the oven. The head and the body have both been baked. They're solid as a rock. Next thing to do is to work out how or where we put the head onto the body of Jack. If we have a look back at the photo, you can see we should put, I think, the head at an angle like that. So if we sit this in here, this guy should sit about like that. So what we need to do is find the center of the back of the body and then cut a groove that's going to need to go quite shallow at the bottom, but in quite deep at the top. So I think that should sit into about here. Get out a nice sharp scalpel blade, get a nice edge going here. I think that might be quite good. So if we pop this on here, and that looks pretty good actually. I'm happy with that. You can pop that head in the front. Here's the mark for where the neck starts. All we need to do now is get a little bit more of the Sculpey and warm it up, heat it up a bit, and pop it in between those two previous bits like that. Tidy that up a bit. And now we need to bake that for a further 15 to 20 minutes. Next job is to make up the arms and the legs from wire, and we are going to roll some red felt around the wire to create a tube of trouser and arm sleeve. So first up, we measure 10 centimeters long. We're going to do it over length because you never know what might happen. We may need extra. We can always cut some of the red off because we probably need a little bit at the end here to poke into the body, and maybe a bit at the end, the other end for feet. I'm measuring out 1/2 inch width for each felt strip. And I'm using inches because that seems to me to be the perfect length. And now that we've done that, and we've cut the wires for each, it is now time to wrap them around the wire. So to do that, I'm going to use Copydex to pop a little bit onto your tray. Breathe in the fumes, which are lovely. Not really, they're ammonia, so not very nice. A little bit of sponge foam. It's all you need to get. Maybe cut it out of your mattress. No, that seems a little bit unfestive, but you'll get some at a local haberdasher's or hobby shop, actually. Pretty easy to get. And just dab it pretty lightly, because this felt is quite thin. You get different thicknesses of felt. This was just bought at my local craft supplies. Once you've dabbed it on, you need to let it dry thoroughly, probably for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And as you can see, it's already getting stuck on all my fingers and things. There we go. Leave them to dry. These sheets of Copydex strip are now dry. These are for the arms, so we'll do the arms first. I shall dab a little bit of Copydex onto the wire of the arms. Then I lay them out on one edge, curl it over the edge. There we go, like that. So cool. Now, if we go back to the first one again, we will continue to roll it, but a little bit more glue on this edge, and then push it on itself so that it hits 2 layers of Copydex, if you see what I mean. Creates the bond, which is, it's like a contact adhesive. Okay, there we go. 1 down and 3 more to go. Now what we need to do is cover the body with some of the red felt. To do that, I want to first make a pattern. Now, patterns are done for puppet making particularly because puppets have very weird shapes. The best way to make the pattern is to find some fabric, preferably calico, lay it around the figure, and then find where the fabric should cut at the back. And there you go. Now you need to get out your pencil and make an accurate mark around the fabric that you're using to make the pattern, including around the bottom edge. And once you've done that, open it out and then add a seam allowance around the bottom so you can tuck it in under the character later. Okay, so I'm going to leave a bit on either side for the moment. And now we shall try it on here and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So push that in like that and do the same process as previously. Push it around the side, and we're going to have a single back seam at the back like that, and pull the front arrow shape across to the back. Let's cut this out and see what happens. Put that on here, and this piece on here. Draw around the shapes with a pencil. Get out your Copydex. Pop it onto the foam like this, and just give it a light pat. And wait for it to dry. Then snip them out. I have painted the body red. I'm going to put some Copydex on here. Let's lay this in and pull it around. Then I have a needle and some red thread. And I'm going to use a cross stitch to sew this together. And now I'm going to put the top section on as well. The top stitch is just a matter of sewing from under the fabric to over the top, and then under the fabric on the other side. Over the top, under the fabric on the other side, over the top and under the fabric on the other side. Okay, so we've covered the body. Now all we need to do is get a little bit of red felt and stick it with the Copydex around the base of Jack's head, like that. Let's poke it through the hole in the top of the body, push it all the way in, and grab the arms. Push those into the holes that I've made in the sides of the body. And the other side, push that in, like that. And good, we're ready for the next stage. Now we're going to do Santa's hat, or Jack's hat, as Santa Claus. It's quite a thin tubular hat, but it must have a bit of roundness at the top to fit on his head. So I've created a pattern that I think might work. First, draw this pattern out on some red felt with a seam allowance on either side, because we're going to use a sewing machine from the bottom of the hat to about halfway up the funnel. Here we have our hat folded in half, and we are just going to sew the seam, maybe even not that far, maybe to about there. There we go. In here. That's all there is to it. Right, so the first thing we need to do is just trim off the excess fabric on the outside of the seam. And then we need to push the top of the hat in through the middle of the hat and pull it out the other side, just like that. Now we have a hat shape. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to sculpt a little bit of yellow foam into a conical shape like the hat will be, and also prepare a little bit of wire. Push this bit through here. Helps to give the hat a bit of shape. And the wire as well. Now what we need to do is to hand stitch the rest of the hat up. So we start down where the stitch ended on the machine, pull it through, and then we do a cross stitch. So we cross it under the fabric and then pull it over the top and under. So we're constantly going under basically. There we go, look at that. That's a hat if ever I saw one. We need some trim, and for the arms as well. The best I can get is this quite fine fleece. There we go. The Copydex, I'm just going to put a layer of Copydex all the way around there, like that. And a bit of a dab on the white trim as well. Attaching this bit to that bit, and it's already happening. So first up, let's just check that that's sitting nice. That's looking pretty good. I've put some Copydex on the back of here, and I'm just going to wrap that thick section first over to there. It creates a nice little bauble. And now a little bit of judicious trimming. There we go. Is that too big? One never knows how big the furry bauble at the end of a Santa hat should be. Boom. Next up, I want to craft a beard, just like the one that Jack Skellington wears. So I found this fun fur, and it's got a lovely pile, a lovely texture to it. I think it looks quite like that. So I have done a very sort of rough shape of the beard, and I am going to trace that onto the back of a piece of this fabric. Don't forget, you need to make sure the fur is going down, because all the hair is going down in the drawing. Right, so I'm going to do a bit of a rough drawing of what the beard size should be, allowing for a bit of excess on either side. And now I'm going to get a nice sharp pair of scissors. And rather than chomp right through, I'm just going to lift it up and go, just do the under layer, this piece, just cut that away so that we don't have a straight edge with no fur on it. We want lots of fur to overlap, okay? Just go in and cut it just inside the line. And I'm hoping that that will mean that there'll be lots of overhang. Yes, there will. That's looking pretty good. Okay, there we go. A lovely bit of beardy fur. I've got the stencil of the beard, and I've cut a piece of wire which I've bent into the shape of that stencil. Slightly smaller, actually, because once the fabric's been bent over that, it'll make it wider. Get some of our Copydex. We're going to put it right onto the edge of the fur. In fact, in the end, it's probably best to do the whole lot. So we're going to now let that dry off. Now that the Copydex is dry, I'm going to lay this wire onto the top here, and then fold over the edges. This needs an awful lot of trimming down. We can do that. I'm literally going to cut into the whole thing because it's quite shaggy anyway. Then on with the vacuum cleaner. There we go, we're starting to get a beard. I might get my brush, using this brush here. So this beard at the moment has got fur on it. On the other side, I've painted the fur with some white paint. And that's all you need to do to give us that nice textured feel. Not unlike the photo of that through there. So let's just do it on the back as well. Just to show you, need to paint it down in the direction that the fur is traveling. There we go. You might also want to put a pin through just to highlight some of the whiskers. So the hands of Jack Skellington are as important as any other part of it because he's holding the reins of the reindeer. I've calculated that if I get an 8 centimeter long piece of wire times 2 and bend it in half about here like that, and then pull these two nice and close together. I'm now going to twist one end together. And the end I'm twisting together is the end with the hooks on it, and twist them around maybe 3 or 4 times. And there we go, we've got 4 fingers already. Oh, by the way, Jack has only got 4 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, not 5. Then at the end of the hands, we need to put a little bit of Sculpting. And that just gives us a nice bit of our palm, the palm shape of the hand. So if we pop that on like that, push it either side, there we go. And particularly with Jack, he's got nice long fingers, so that works quite well with the wire that we have here. Maybe even push the Sculpting down and in a bit. Now we're going to dip the hands that I've made in liquid latex. Liquid latex is basically the sap from rubber plants. So it's a natural product, although it does smell a lot of ammonia. What I'm doing here is I am going to dip this hand into the latex, into the liquid latex that we have, like that, and then pull it virtually straight out again. So what I'm going to do is, with this bit of cotton that I've put on the end of the hand, I'm going to dangle this over some warmth so that the latex dries, and then I'm going to give it another dip of latex. So just 2 dips of latex, and then it's pretty much done. Once the hands have been dipped, it's a good idea to dip the hands in some talcum powder. That just takes the stickiness off the top of the powder, and it also means that the paint, when you come to paint the hand, it has a bit more grip because of the the talc that is dried into the latex. So there you go, there's quite a Jack Skellington type hand, I think. So we had the two hands covered in latex. Now all we need to do is give them a bit of white paint. I have to say that Jack Skellington is quite a simple paint job. So there we have two sets of hands ready to hold some reins. Now it's time to put all the various bits of Jack Skellington together. You'll notice that I have put some teeth in here. These are made from Sculpting, like the head. I've also got the hat here, which will sit on his head rather like that. I've also got a beard ready to glue onto his head. I've got hands, his black boots for his trousers. It's now time to put everything together. First up, I am going to glue the beard onto the head. On the actual picture, his beard goes right up under his hat, and I haven't done this piece long enough to do that. So what I will do is I'll glue that on, and then with some Sculpey, I shall just lay that along the back behind it and gently texture it in to the beard. Don't tell anyone, I've cheated slightly, but that's the way I'm going to do it. I've done a trim for one of the arms. I've bound the hands together in my usual method of using some cotton and some glue to stick it together. I sewed the edge to edge of the cuff. Now we'll just poke this boot up onto the leg. There we go. Now we need a little bit of trim. And then we snip a little bit of double-sided tape. Wrap it round between the leg and the boot to hold them both together. And then wrap your trim around, and look at that, a Santa trouser trim. Easy as a Christmas mince pie. I've just cut from this piece of leather a nice black belt to go around the waist of Jack Skellington. But also Jack has a set of tails behind him, and we can quite easily achieve that by putting some tails behind the belt. With some double-sided tape, I am now gluing the tail onto the back of Jack's jacket, and now I am going to put this belt around, and I already have a little bit of double-sided tape there and glue. And now it's time to pop Jack's head on. Pop the legs into the seat, body on top, arms to the side, hat on the head, and there we have Jack. All I need to do is stitch the arms to the body.